Fire. Spirit is not really fire. It's an unfortunate challenge. Spirit is not really water. We do these sometimes, remind you, we're learning to sense something that's beyond our appreciation, our norm. We use metaphors. We learn from what we know, and we combine what we know with other things we know to create an awareness of what we don't know yet. Wild. Wild. What does wild mean? What does wild mean? Stare at what you believe wild means. I felt like it. I'm in control. Do wild things. Wildness is in tune. Wildness is in tune with the earth, in tune with the rhythms of nature. Now, is it dangerous? Look, the perception that wildness is chaotic, full of rage, potentially like sexually explicit in bars or some absurdities. This is there because when human beings allow ourselves to feel wildness, it unleashes the repression. So it's your job to deal with your repression. This is the point. We're done. This is the point. I want you to get this. There's a wildness. It's in rhythm with the wind and the rain. To allow your body to be what it is, the gift of the earth. To allow your body to be in tune with nature as it is meant to be, you must deal with the repressed confusion, the passions, the lost, lonely, rage. So you deal with these things on purpose. Now, first, you deal with them because you're probably hurting other people or yourself by not dealing with them. If you're so effective at dealing with them that you don't recognize their presence, then they sublimate into cancers. First, it's just anxiety and tension. Over time, all manner of diseases are born out of such repressions. So at first, you're engaging your repressions, you're engaging your shadow to unburden yourself of the negative repercussions. I want to invite you deeper right away. There's a wildness. It's in rhythm with the wind and the rain. Feels good. Makes you want to move and be, to really be. Do you know how much effort it takes to sit still at a desk all day? Oh my God. It's a lot of work. When you tune in with the rhythms that are alive in you and you breathe with them, you sense them and you breathe with them, they immediately become pronounced. This is my second priority today, to emphasize this. There's a wide range of phenomena that are real inside of you. And if you don't focus your attention on them and stay, you won't sense them much. That is why it's even possible to repress elements of your life so deeply that they become sicknesses. Now, make no mistake, first you need to embrace the fact that most of the sicknesses you know of as end-of-life diseases, chronic diseases that undermine a good life, most of them are the result of various forms of repression, of shadow. Shadow is that which we do not recognize as our own. So we put it behind ourselves. We don't focus the gaze of our consciousness on these elements of ourself. In fact, typically people try to identify within a space that's smaller than what they really are and relegate the rest to shadow. Repressed shadow becomes diseases, all the major ones. Now, some amazing doctors are deciphering this. Strongly encourage you to honor Gabor Mate. He's doing great work. He's writing a book about this as we speak. And it's radical as far as mainstream reality goes. To appreciate that type A personalities get Lou Gehrig's disease, that repressing the anguish that your partner regularly cheats on you will give you cancer, that repressing the grief that you were never able to reconcile with your mother before she died will give you Parkinson's, that repressing the knowledge that someone in your family was molested and you didn't stand up for them will give you Alzheimer's. You don't believe me? That is your choice. I'm not asking you to go any deeper than this right now. By addressing your repressions, you will live a much better life. Can you agree with that much? Good. Be present with this. This time we share, it's an infusion of energy. More than anything, I'm following the rhythm of a natural flow of spirit that's trying to be born in this world. I do my best to articulate to you everything I know about where it comes from, how it works, why we do this, why it's worth it, what goes wrong, why it goes wrong, and how to handle it, what is potential, how to focus on it, how to breathe with it, and how to be it. All of these are necessary skills to develop to be present with the kind of spirit that's being born. And in many cases, for many of you, it is being born through me to you. Now, this is an ancient heritage in many cultures, particularly yogic. The awareness that some teacher can channel energy through themselves into you. Now, this is how it works in every culture. It's just many didn't watch it. This is how it works with musicians. Many of you are essentially being guided by the spirit of the music you loved when you were teenagers, still, because you never rewrote the essence of your energy. And thus you have to live smaller than you did then. Did you ever hold on to 16 as long as you can? Changes come around to real soon make us women and men. That is what it is to live your best days when you're young and never succeed in transcending those feelings. Many people live like this. The reason they live like this is because you program into your emotional space in your mind. Your mind and emotions collaborate to program in something that's programmed into spirit. But if you don't know spirit, you're essentially registering limits and parameters within which you live the rest of your life. It doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be limited by the extremes you discover in this way. You don't have to write stories in the extremes that you discover when you're young and always live within their shadow. You can expand yourself, develop your limits, and make no mistake, in your 20s, you should be pushing your limits. You should be finding where the absolute edge of your capacity is. But you don't have to write the same story and carry it for the rest of your life. You can live through a story that expands your limits, and then you can use these limits. This is what I like to do. This is what I do very successfully in my own life. And it's what I'm here to offer you. How do we live? How do we really live in a world that has so many ways of reinforcing that you should stay down, stay within what's known, what's normal, what's common, what's expected? Now, make no mistake, it is not rebellious to do a lot of drugs anymore. It is not rebellious to have a lot of sex anymore. It's rebellious to be restrained and focused these days. We've been inundated with entertainment in the United States about pushing such extremes as if it's rebellious. All it does is serve corporate greeds at this point. Everything's funneled into patterns that feed some people who you would not choose to support if you knew who they were. No, it's rebellious to learn to tune in, slip through the cracks, rewrite the stories, to refuse to accept the extremes that are given to you, the patterns of behavior that you're taught to recognize as archetypes. Refuse them. Ask yourself, can you change these? You can. Oh, darn it. Not seeing great today. Wildflowers. Indeed. Angie, it's good to see you. Tom, thank you for being here. Good morning. Lomanita. Bless you. Thank you for being here. Mano with Heather. I love it. Good one. Much appreciated. Sarah, thank you for being here. There is something opening, my dear friends and people and comrades and community, and the love that's opening in this is so fundamentally different from what it has been that we really need to develop the ability to be quiet a bit. Now, I've done this for years. It's part of why I'm invited to talk so much and in general have something of value for many when I do. Thank you very much for the donation. Your donations are much appreciated. Your likes are a gift. The way we connect with each other here is a template for how we can connect with others. And I've been invited to be this fundamentally as a way to channel energy to you. So we're offering an energetic attunement. Now, in many circumstances, you can tune to anyone, really. Oh, there's a wide range of people in the world. And if anyone expresses themselves with enough presence and focus, you can tune to that just by paying attention. And if multiple people pay attention to the same thing, you have something in common. And once you have something in common, you have a common unity. You can build and create together. So what we tune to matters. Now, I was invited to be quiet for a long time. I was invited to make music that I let go of. I was invited to speak to the wind and let it go. And in the process, I learned to feel the wind. I learned to feel the rhythms of the way in which nature touched my life. First, it was fun. Then it was terrifying. Then it was fun again. Then it was confusing. Then it was peaceful. Then I began to be stressed if I couldn't feel the ground, the weather, the temperature. Now, when I'm outside, my feet itch. I start to get stressed and I go through this, oh yeah, it's because my feet want to touch the earth. I want you to consider the value of introducing discomfort into your life. If I tell you, I'm telling you, you listen to this, I am going to teach you to be less comfortable with the rhythms of your life the way they are. Now, why would we do these? Well, first of all, you're suffering in ways you do know. Most of you, right? You know the ways in which you're suffering. You have some relationship to it. Now, I'm suggesting that you might improve. Life might get better if you learn to feel discomfort in places you don't currently feel it. Because if your feet are uncomfortable, not touching the earth, and then you touch the earth and you tune to the rhythm of nature, and that relieves the anxiety you've been carrying, that immediate introduction of discomfort is now your ally. Now let's make this even easier. What if some of the things that you know of as your pain, your problems, are teaching you to tune in to a greater depth? And what if, just consider, you are resisting this depth because a subconscious of you, part of you, is afraid of wildness. So afraid of wildness. Now, you could just take a breath whenever I do that. You could. Or you could read it through a paradigm of, why doesn't he just keep going? That's annoying. The way you expect reality to work has a profound relationship with how reality really works. So, first of all, if you hold very rigid expectations, wildness is experienced in a very different way for you. Now, if you soften your expectations too much and you don't have anything, you might indeed just be so wishy-washy that you live a bad life, end up in lethargy. Suppose it's possible. There are these monsters at either ends, but it's important to be able to recognize what your real problems are. Now, let's just take a little sojourn. In a world that has long been consistently biased in one way, if we start to rectify that bias, and immediately people are screaming about the dangers of rectifying that bias, is that really in proportion to the way things are? If you're going too fast, and then I urge you to put on the brake, and you start to put on the brake, and you're still going too fast. You started to put on the brake, but you're still going too fast. And then the backseat driver starts screaming, but if you stop, someone's going to crash into you. If you use the brake too much, you're going to get rammed. We haven't used the brake enough yet. It's not time for that worry. I want you to watch for this pattern in the world around you, in the culture and in the people. And it's very, very stark, although at first it's difficult to recognize. You have to actually hold reality in order to recognize it. Me Too movement erupts. It's not even close to okay yet in the world. Me Too movement erupts. Immediately you get all these people going, yeah, but we've got to be able to differentiate between what is actually sexual molestation and what is just, joking around. And it's like, look, women and men are still inundated with invasive behavior by predatory alpha male wannabes. It's still true. It's running my country right now. So no, we haven't put the brake on enough. That's the measure. Stare at reality. Look at what's happening. The brakes have not been put on enough in the right way to stop this invasiveness. So having an entrenched dialogue about the dangers of stopping assertiveness too much is inappropriate. Same with wildness. When you do the things that you need to do to bring yourself to life, I want you to watch how your mind has these little programs in there that say, be careful, it could go too far. Really, watch in yourself now. In what ways are you your own jailer? In what ways are you holding the story that argues with you the second you start to change negative patterns? And it's essentially the same as like you've been taught to stay too restricted. You've been taught to stay too controlled. You've been taught that not taking a risk is caution and it's pragmatic. But if you are able to step back enough to take a breath, you can realize that the genuine challenge you're facing, if this is you, the genuine challenge you're facing is that you're stuck. So when you start to change that stuckness, the measure is, have you changed it? Are you moving? Do you want to hop out of bed and feel alive today? Do you want a new challenge? Are you eager when your mind embraces a new challenge? Does it make you breathe? Does it help you live? To feel yourself breathing is grounds, it's the absolute beginning. Take a deep breath right now, please, and then do it again. And I want you to notice what part of your body first inhibits your breath. Now I can already feel it's right here for me. So I breathe into the restriction. Oh. Now, blessedly, that was enough for me. Right now, I can breathe more deeply with not much effort because I practice this every day. When you're first learning to sense into the presence of the restrictions that keep you from really being alive, your relationship to them is numb. So you don't even know what you're feeling. Now, I want to terrify you. I would prefer this scare you than it not. Mental patterns exist. And mental patterns that aren't good for you restrict your breath. Now, the reason this should scare you is you are suffocated by the wrong bad forms of control. They're suffocating you, and they exist. They're squeezing your breath. They're squeezing your ability to breathe. Now, the amazing news is that you can learn to change this. But you can't learn to change it until it kind of scares you a little bit. And if you retract from the fear, if your primary goal here is to live in sort of something you call comfort, I wouldn't really call it comfort, but something you call comfort absent of fear, you're really doing yourself damage. Because the consequence of not being afraid of this is that you won't learn to recognize it. And if you don't learn to recognize it, you won't feel the passion to change it. Fear is not fear. Fear is energy. The way you experience energy may manifest as fear when you can recognize that that energy will unsettle much of what you know. It is natural to experience fear when you recognize that an energy will unsettle much of what you know. That's normal. If your first response is to try to cease the fear, you will rewrite the story that squeezes your own lungs. I'm telling you, you are very, very likely, almost everyone listening to this is very likely squeezing your own breath. Breath. The opposite of breath is death. There is a force that's trying to kill you, and you are feeding it. And it's not going to change super quickly, but you can change your relationship to it. Now, the first and last and middle response is to turn your ability to recognize the presence of this force into a reminder bell to do something alive. This is the lesson. Once you accept that there's a place for this fear, you want to feel a little dose of this fear because it's going to inspire you. Once you accept this, you turn it into a little bell, like a notification. This works. And when you turn it into a little notification bell, you are choosing to be a little bit afraid. But then you're using that fear to shift your own behavior into something that brings you a little bit alive. Now, here's the even better news. You don't want to do this all at once. You can really fry yourself. People fry themselves all the time. Many people who are diagnosed with something or other are diagnosed with something or other during peak moments. Now, it's not always the case, but it's often the case. Some anomalous behavior is a trigger that, has some kind of intervention, and family or friends gather together and say, hey, you need help from a doctor. Now, look, in most cases like this, people really do need help. They aren't well. But let's look at it in a different way. The typical pattern is this: we're living. We're taking in the patterns, the expectations, the rhythms of the ways around us. And these rhythms, these patterns, these expectations are too suffocating. They inhibit behaviors that are natural and strong and wild. And they tell us to do things that don't come naturally. Our true spirit is in here saying, I won't even try to do that until you let me do what I really want to do. Sing. But you hold that force down because it's in opposition to the expectations of the world around you. You're not going to make enough money. You won't pay your bills. You'll alienate everyone and drive them away. You'll get a bad grade. Your boss won't like you. You'll get a bad review. Whatever the tape is, all those things are crushing your breath. So the typical rhythm of awakening is that there's a shift in awareness, and all of a sudden you get in touch consciously with this part of yourself that's screaming to live. And you scream too loud. It comes out in an assertive way that lacks coherence or context. So people around you are like, what the fuck is that? Now, arguably, it's not great art. It's not elegant. So what? If you were surrounded by people who cared about you and held you and hugged you and loved you and said, good for you, you got your voice into your spirit. Because I have got a little spark in my heart again. It gets started when I surrender in tune with the rhythms of truth and love. I don't know which is way. Above me, below me, around me, surround me with everything that can possibly abound me. Ground me deep within with the roots of the rhythms that know that subsistence is not enough. We've got to thrive and build the stuff that makes our own rhythm of life into something much better than anything strife can give. I like to live beyond the fears, beyond the tears. I like to allow myself to let them flow when they need to too. As we learn to ride, there's something deeper that wakens inside the wildness. Would like to show you who you are. We're being confronted by a stark distinction. It's purposeful. We just did an incredible channeling yesterday that just cracked me open. We did a temple talk. And when we do these, I often don't remember what's happening. And that's exciting because it typically means that I'm expanding my awareness beyond my capacity of normal. It took work for me to get good at this. The art of passing the limits. And in this, there was just a very stark lesson that she taught us. Mainstream American culture, which influences too much of the world, is being driven towards a musical, mechanical, mathematical, electronic dominance on purpose. When music is pitch gauged and beat frozen so that there's no life in it, what is literally happening is the rhythm of the beat is being tuned to math. Now, this is fun, all right? First of all, I told you this is wild, and I told you the intention is to tune more than to think. What is a second? Does anyone here know what a second is? Really? What is a second tuned to? Who decided how long a second is? Does anyone here know? I do not. What is a second? Our entire lives are built around this little pause gap length. What if it was 9/10 as long and that 9/10 shift was completely in rhythm with the heartbeat of squids? But what if 1 second, a tenth longer, is out of rhythm? Is it in rhythm with anything? Do we have any conception of what a second is in rhythm with? Because we base an awful lot off of a second. You want to know how they make music these days? They put a da 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 da. What is it? 100 beats per minute, 120 beats per minute, 117 beats per minute. But it's all per minute. It's all based in 60 seconds. What if 93% of a second is actually in tune with a natural rhythm, but 1 second and in tune with anything? I don't know. But we have somehow agreed to design our lives around this expectation. Now, if I make music and it is beat shifted to seconds, you could subtly stretch it out to make all those rhythms coherent in the music I've made. But what if I was in tune with the wind? Now let me ask you this. Is the wind in tune with seconds? When the birds sing, are they in tune with seconds? And let me ask you an even more difficult question. When you listen to the birds, can you hear them? They get up every morning and sing. Some of them start singing when the barest glimmer has begun to come over the horizon. Some of them sing for hours. You got that kind of passion? Do you have that kind of focus? They're doing something. The way they experience what they're doing, I'm going to take a simple guess, is fully present. They are present with what they're doing. I can make music that's in tune with the wind. This became my commitment when I woke up 25 years ago. It became a dominant commitment for me to make music, and I did not give a shit if anyone listened to me. I wanted to tune to the wind. I wanted to tune to the natural rhythms. And lo and behold, it worked a lot better when I wasn't surrounded by electrical wires. It worked even better when I listened and heard the birds. When I listen to music for any length of time that's recorded on my computer, and then I go listen to the wind, I can't hear it. When I spend some time detached, sometimes I can put my phone down in the dark and record when I make music. It's exquisite. I can feel it in every part of my body. The rhythm goes up and down. My voice cracks sometimes. I don't care. It's not crucial. It's not crucial that it's perfect. It's not crucial that every word makes sense. I freestyle the words. Wild style. And when I do this, I get into feelings that I could never get at otherwise. I get into the presence of myself in a way that I didn't even know that's who I was until I found it by allowing the passion to move through me. Now, I can record that. And if I don't listen to media for a day, I can listen to it and bring me to tears. And then I can listen to media for a couple hours. I can listen to some music that's recorded. I can listen to a documentary that has some music in it. I can listen to just someone talking, but it's in this. Now I go back and I listen to my recording. It's cringeworthy. It hurts. It's off. It's sloppy. It's imperfect. My expectations shape what I experience. Now, I hope that this is kind of obvious to you, but I really want to invite you deeper into the presence of it because we are all missing the mana. The gift of this world is not coming in pitch corrected, beat focused second. The wind does not follow electronic beats. The wind is changing rhythm. Are you willing to learn how to change your rhythm? Because to be present with the wildness that is all around you is to be willing to follow the ebbs and flows. Watch some waves. Many of you are near some body of water, a lake, the ocean. Go watch some waves. Count. There's a rhythm, but it doesn't fit to anything that a computer would make and control. The rhythm of the waves is an interplay between multiple natural forces. If you look at how waves are made, you could look on a computer. There are these interplay of waves beneath the waves. And as they interact, it generates which waves dominate and hit the shore. And so you're getting a you can make music with this. You can make music with this. But you have to be more alive. You have to be more aware. You can't just get lost in a regimented beat. Now, first of all, I'd like to apologize. And I'd like to apologize. I'm sorry. This is hard to learn. And once you learn this, it takes the joy out of many of the things that you may have loved. And I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry because I'm saving your life. This stuff is not going to last. The joys that I had listening to you two when I was younger are not here in the same way. Now, that's not to say it wasn't all as it should have been. Much medicine can come through beat-corrected, pitch-controlled music. But it's within a framework that prevents us from tuning in with the rhythms of nature. The music of the future will not work that way. The music of the future, the waves of life that ripple through the young as they awaken and come of age, it's going to be very different. We're still operating in the shadow of the previous era. It hasn't let go yet. And the reason it hasn't let go is because there is no possibility for innovation within this model that actually extends this model without shattering this model. They don't want to be shattered. But there's a rhythm of life and death in the world. There's a rhythm of life and death to eras. And the music that represents specific eras must either change or die. Now, the reason this matters so much is, are you dancing? Are you dancing? I know. I hope that caught you off guard. Are you dancing? What are you dancing to? Now, I think there's great value in dancing, period. So if something gets you to dance, dance. Be present there. Feel what you feel there. But appreciate if you can't dance to the rhythm of the wind, something's wrong. And the sadness in this is that that's true of almost everyone that I know. Have you ever run out into the rain, just to get a chance to dance? Have you ever done that? I'm not shaming you, I'm inviting you. Now, dance in the rain in a way you like. First, just do it to do it, okay? So break the seal. Just do it. The shock of doing it, particularly if you're coming out of winter, the shock of itself is enough. Appreciate it. Get back inside, wrap a towel around, go, woof, I did it. Break that. But I want you to aim deeper. I want you to aim for what's the rhythm that makes you happy? Can you feel the rhythm of the rain? I wonder, are seconds in tune with the rhythm of the rain? Are seconds, and I mean mathematically, you measure how hard that raindrop is hitting you. You measure the relationship of gravity. You know, what is it? 9.6 feet per second or something. What is the acceleration? What is the rhythm at which rain hits our bodies? Now, it's different during different storms, right? But is there any coherence? Has anyone studied this? Dance to that rhythm. Feel the beat that's in tune with that beat. Then pick up in the wind too. There's an orchestra out there. You just don't know how to feel it yet. And I'm inviting you to start. I'm not trying to entertain you. And train you. Sustain you. Deranged. Stranged. Be rebellious and smell these. The taste of this will relieve the anxious inner sensations that you have never grieved. If you would look much deeper than you do, you would find there's a message for you. It's calling deep within you to draw you in. Into the rhythms of deeper devotion, into the smokescreen commotions. And right on through to the other side. Break on through. Music is medicine. Music is prayer. Music has always been medicine and prayer. Medicine and prayer are not judged by assholes who give you money. Medicine and prayer are what you do when you're sick, when you're scared, when you don't know how to create yourself. You can all sing. You can all dance. Every single one of you. And anyone who judges you for how you sing or dance can go fuck themselves. And if you don't hold that firmly, you will be the force that suffocates your own breath. This is a fight for your survival. Do you understand that? I do not have any desire to set you up for reckless and haphazard engagements with the people who you confront. I have the desire to make you stone cold focused whenever you can be in the face of threat. And I also have the desire to blaze your fire until you have exactly the passion it takes to protect yourself from forces that are trying to suffocate you. This is not a subtle reality. The hemlock fights with the blackberry. Willows have to fight to root themselves. You must want to live in order to succeed here. You must want to live. And if you feel a pull towards death, I urge you to recognize that something needs to die, but don't let it be your body. To allow yourself to feel the rhythms of life and death as normal is to appreciate that these are just beginnings and endings within a finite space that is itself a finite space. The poetry of conversational reality rips apart a past that was designed in a static, suffocated, frozen way. There is no shame in having been born in a suffocated world. There is no hatred that is necessary to reject this world, only sober, focused awareness. What are you really fighting? Because the ultimate fight is right here. It's for your own breath. It's to breathe deeply. And you will find that your own breath gets restricted when you choose to refuse to engage life in the ways your spirit is trying to push you, pull you, drive you, inspire you. I want to be with your breath as you reject your frozen zombie mind that's telling you not to live. I want to be with you when you breathe more deeply and you breathe more deeply again and you breathe more deeply again and you think while you breathe about what really matters. Breathe now. What really matters? What really matters? You're depressed, you're anxious. What are you not giving yourself that you need to give yourself? You get manic sometimes and you know you can overdo it, so you refuse to act because it might get out of hand. That's like saying, I'm never going to go over 10 miles per hour because once I went 90 and crashed. Learn. This body is complicated. Inhabiting the earth is complex. There are multiple balances that you have to find and feel and focus. And I'm only giving you more. I'm here to awaken you to the awareness that you can breathe deeply and what your breath teaches you to do. And it's so deep. And here's the cool thing. Once you get just a little bit beyond the boundaries of what's normal, you're so much safer. Once you know how to rest a little bit beyond what's normal, I can feel stuck, static, and tense. Do one handstand for 20 seconds. One handstand for 20 seconds. And I've changed the next hour. Now, here's the even more fabulous thing. What is that for you? What is just this much outside your comfort zone? How many of you can do this? Really, get up and try it. How many of you can get down and now learn to be comfortable? Okay, I've just given you a challenge that is every bit as important as any other yogic challenge. It might be more important than ever learning to do a handstand. Maybe you'll know, who cares? If that is an edge that you don't know how to get to, you can work on it for the next 6 months. And in 20 seconds, you can practice doing that 3 times. Go as close as you can. Boom. Did you do that yesterday? Did you do that yesterday? So once you introduce that to your repertoire of what you do, you are outside the boundaries of the force that has been suffocating you. And once you expand yourself enough that you start to get even more uncomfortable day to day, then you start to recognize your discomfort as a little notification bell that says, get up and do that. Now, the progression is awesome. Eventually, you just keep challenging yourself. It's astonishing how much progress you can make if you do that a couple times a day. Because here's the thing, you do that a couple times a day, nothing else. You do that a couple times a day. Just squat down as deep as you can. As you can. Like, look, man, maybe that just means bend your knees a little. Do it as deep as you can a couple times a day. Skip a day every once in a while because you forget. You're going to make progress. Really. Now extend that for years. I've been doing this for 25 years. I have to give myself some difficult challenges. Here. Wait a second. I want to get that. Make this shit normal. Make it normal. Start exactly where you are. You know, who gives a shit how good you are at it, really? It's all about having fun at the end of the day. But the fun comes from invigorating yourself. What does it take to invigorate yourself in 1 minute? I cannot emphasize enough. Every week I try to do this. This week, do it. What is it? I want every single person here to know exactly what it takes to get your heart rate up in 1 minute. Don't tell me you can't do it. Whoever you are, if you are in a hospital bed, sometimes sitting up gets your heart rate up. I've been there. So sit up once. Get your life moving so you can breathe. What does it take to sense the suffocation and push it away? Dissolve it, own it, transmute it. I want to be with you while you fight within yourself to own your breath and to realize there's no bad guys out there. There's no they. I urge you to do something. This is a crazy cool commitment. Don't even listen to anybody who blames they. There's no they, okay? There's only here. When you face the battles here, you'll bump into shit in the world. You'll know exactly what to do. And you'll appreciate that the people, the bad guys that represent the forces you know within yourself, of course you're going to bump into them. You've decided to take them on. We're looking at 10 years of facing some brutal, awful shit in the world. I'm teaching you how to do it. You face it here. Don't spend your time. Do not spend your mental attention ruminating on all the awful things that are happening. Face the battles here and then pray to be ready. Because absolutely, you're going to have to get in the streets. Absolutely, you're going to have to. Absolutely. There's some awful forces that are absolutely afraid of dying. That's the only thing that's happening right now. All across the world, authoritarian dynamics are rising to the surface specifically because their way of life is dying. It's going to die anyway. You don't need to kill them. Not at all. Do it right here. Recognize the way the same forces are alive in you. The same desire for control when it's not time to control. The same fear of the wind is alive in you. Fight it here. Bring yourself to life and be a force of nature. When it's time to stand up and say, guess what? My country, the United States, we were built on the gang rape of the land and the people who lived here. Gang rape and murder. There's no sugarcoating this shit. Criminals? We're afraid of criminals coming as immigrants? Let's do the math. What percentage of the people who immigrated to America were complete assholes? You know what we did here? We sent them west to kill the Native Americans. It's astonishing, isn't it? That now when people who are most closely related to the Native Americans by heritage, of all the European immigrants, Central America, the Spanish raped more than they murdered. The English just killed all of them. So many of those who have lived are far more native. And now we decide, oh, there might be some criminals among them. I know the math. Fewer immigrants commit crimes than native-born Americans. This is a fear of truth. And the reason I bring it up is twofold. One, people are afraid of wildness because the wildness exposes truth. It brings everything to the surface. So by bringing it to the surface on purpose, we keep our commitment to stay alive. But two, there's something I want you to appreciate when you mentally engage the world. Mentally, how you filter and understand reality. It's known as displacement. So if I am an awful person, let's say I steal, but I've decided that I have an exception. I steal because I am special and I have to steal in order to thrive and earn my natural place. I deserved all this money already. I am going to start vehemently criticizing other people who steal. They're the bad ones. Well, they're not like me. I'm special. They're the bad ones. This is known as displacement. The violent invasion, the breach of boundaries, the unacceptable moral behavior is generated here in me. But because I've decided I have the right to break the rules, doesn't mean it's true. There's actually a truth to the presence of moral spirit. And so I have to displace it. I have to see it elsewhere. United States has never come to terms with the fact that a huge number of the people who came here were kicked out. A lot of the people who came here were probably beautiful people who were legitimately seeking freedom and a dream. But that acted as a smokescreen for a lot of other people. There's a reason this country is so full of violence, an obsession, a love affair with guns. Go off the beaten track. Go off any mainstream path in this country. You're going to find some very strange communities full of people who I wonder who their relatives were. Who's screaming that criminals are being let into this country? People whose grandfather was a fucking asshole. But they don't deal with that within themselves. Families don't deal with the violence, the ugliness, the incest, the theft, the brutality, the abuse. It's endemic. I lived in 50 homes over the course of my adult life. 50 homes, often humble, quiet, keeping my head down. It sucks. There is so much awful behavior that is just held down. And you want to know what happens? It gets displaced. It gets blamed on people who can't say no. Say no. Do it here, inside yourself. Own your spirit, own your presence. Realize the world is a brutal place, but there is a lot more love being born than has ever been present. Prophets and seers, mystics, saints and sages saw into this time for the right reasons. This is the time when we awaken together. And when we link and honor the love that we know we found on our own, and then we see it in each other, we make it more real in the material, in the human plane. And when we let it flow, when we commit to keeping it alive, when we commit to knowing what it feels like to breathe every day and to remain with this rhythm of this breath, to get outside and feel the air every morning. I want you to get up, get some water, get outside and breathe the air. Step in the snow, touch the earth every day. And you tune with this, you'll feel the love as it's being born, because she's reaching through her vibrancy. She's reaching through the same kind of roots that feed the trees. You're supposed to accept this too. You accept this, you feel this, you'll know how to network with others who do. We network with each other, we'll know how to respond to the authoritarian bullshit it's rearing its head so we can say goodbye. Welcome, wildflowers, to yourself.